Alright then, so I'm gonna talk through my new game, Curse of Greed Ultimate. The non-ultimate version is available free, and there's going to be links below. But if you want the ultimate version, you've got to become a patron of mine, and there's links below there. But I mean, this version will be free eventually, probably January sometime. But yeah, I'm gonna just kind of talk through the game, what it is. I've prepared a list of stuff, and I'm gonna go over various tricks and techniques and just general thoughts and how I went about it, because I don't do this too often with my games, but you know, this is small enough but also deep enough that I can kind of go into detail and cover stuff, but also I'm not going to be bogged down for ages, you know, trying to explain it. Like, this was all done in 1 week, yeah, exactly 1 week. This was a Ludum Dare game, so that was the first 2 days. And then the ultimate version was the rest of the week. So, yeah, to start with, if you don't know what it is, this is a platforming game. You know, you run left, right, you can jump. I've added, you know, wall jumps and stuff like that. You can collect coins, although the key thing in this game particularly is, you see as you collect gold there, it chews into your health points. So the more gold you collect, the more risky it is to take damage. So it's yeah, it's a challenging platformer with the gold being harmful is kind of the gimmick. So when you're, you know, playing at full level, you wanting to avoid the gold. Like, playing perfectly, you don't touch any of the harmful stuff. You also don't touch any of the gold, unless you're trying to like, just collect a bunch of gold just to show it. See, as I collect more, the character's turning gold themselves. And once you've collected 10,000 gold, they just become a statue and it's game over. But there is, you know, a challenge. Like, if you want to become a statue, you can land exactly as a statue on the finish line. That's one of the challenges in this game, if you want to play that way. But to be honest, it is easier just to avoid the gold. And yeah. So, oh, I should have quit the game. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically what this game is. Zone 1 is essentially what the Ludum Dare game was. There wasn't any of this stuff. This stuff is, like, this bottom 3 items are all this week. So Zone 1 is you know, it's this area. It's not changed too much from the Ludum Dare version. It's let's see. Zone 1 is, so the map, okay, the top half of the map. So you run along here, you go along down there, along here, and then to the finish. The finish has changed a bit because you know, like, whilst that is the finish for Zone 1, Zone 2 starts right here. And the new ultimate mode, this one, ultimate, it starts in Zone 1, and you've got to play through all of Zone 1, and then when you get to the, you know, the finish here, it'll the game erases this obstacle, and that finish doesn't end the game. You just got to keep going. So it's twice the size, twice the challenge, but same number of lives and health. Just lots more gold to avoid. What else do I need to talk about? What's new with the thing? The map, the modes. Oh yeah, there's also options. Like, not too many, but I'll go into the difficulty a bit later. And the camera. A lot of people have complained about the camera before, so like, I've changed the camera a little anyway. I'll talk about this more later. But the default camera is kind of this dynamic thing. You know, it changes based on where you're looking, like this, and it's kind of got this easing that it does. You know, it's not totally snapped to the character, whereas you know, people often complained that they wanted a sharp camera. Like, it's not my thing, but you know, it doesn't take away from the game or anything. So if they want it, they can have it. That's fine. If they're happy playing with a camera that's, you know, just snapped to the character. Like, I'm not going to argue it's more precise and it's clearer if you can read it that way. So yeah, it's an option. So that was another thing that's new in this version. Also new is, let's play through Zone 2 a little just so that I can show you some of the new features, is I've added some new hazards. And, oh dear, it's just pretend you're not looking at this. That's these, you see it bobbing along the bottom there is the death ball. This is a new thing. The lasers were in the original version, if you've not played this game before. But these will, you know, jump at you whenever you're in line of sight with them, so that's the thing. Also these wall spikes, so you can't, you've got to be careful with your wall jumps when these are around. And I think, yeah, there's a trampoline here as well. And like the rest of the game, if you're holding jump when you go up, you'll jump higher. So you've got to kind of just find the right... No, there we go. There we go. It's a difficult game. What else have we got? Trampolines, death balls, wall spikes, map and modes. Yeah, that's basically what's new in this version. I've added a bunch of polish and various stuff, and obviously the new main menu. The menu is totally new. The effects in the background. There's a bunch of audio stuff, a bunch of changes in the jumping mechanics, and you know, basically I've just kind of made everything just that bit better. And yeah, whilst the first, you know, the Zone 1 took a weekend to make, everything else is you know, just making it right, that took a rest of a week. And like it's been a busy week. You know, like making a full game in a week, it's busy. Anyway, so that's kind of my explanation of what the game is and what's changed since the Ludum Dare version. I'm gonna go over just kind of a core idea of how the game works now. So if you're curious about Pico-8 stuff, then this is definitely where I get into the nitty-gritty. I've got a list of various things that I want to go over, but I'll just kind of go kind of tab by tab for now, because there is kind of an order to it. It's not very commented. Cursor gold, that's not right. That should be cursor read. That means the label's been wrong this whole time. Okay, I'll fix that later. Yeah, it's not very commented well because the compressed size is way up there. I've not got any space for more comments. In fact, the only thing that I wasn't wrestling with down here during the development was the character count. I was having to fight the compressed size a few times, the token count a few times, and also lure memory, which is actually a thing in this. Like, there's a limit to how much memory your code can take up. So yeah, it was a challenge. Anyway, core game overview. Here we go. Okay, so the first tab, it's all for initialization stuff, and so we start out with label making. I'll talk about that later. That's not used anymore. Goodness me, it is a mess. This code is a mess. Like, I'm telling you this now. So initialization stuff. We've got the menus here. So each menu, like the main menu and the options menu, is an array of array or a table, whichever you prefer to call it. They're probably tables, aren't they? Technically. Anyway, each one's a string, and there is an index to indicate where. You know, there's functions for changing menu items. We've got the animations here, also just, you know, lists of frames. So I can say, you know, to a different object, oh, okay, your animation is now a flag wave, and that's, you know, that's the animating checkpoint flag, which composes of these frames, and you can just see them there. There we go, and you can see in the little window there the animation playing. when I drag the cursor across there. So those are the that's flag wave there, defined here, and somewhere in code I'll have it so that wherever the player touches a checkpoint, it plays that animation. So yeah, that's how animations are working. Just lists of stuff, and each actor, object, whatever you want to call it, will have a frame number as well as its animation, and the frame will just move forward each step. So you can have things using the same animation but be at different places in the animation themselves. Camera settings, general gameplay stuff, health, lives, score, whether we've won or not, how long we've been playing, checkpoint positions, zone 2, XY. This is, I'll talk about this a bit later, is because the game has 2 zones and we start in a different position, I don't want to spawn 2 players at once, so I have to have like a special kind of flag. It's I'll show you in the map. Is you see this character here with the kind of jumping, whereas that's the zone 2 spawn, whereas this one is the zone 1 spawn. This one is what actually spawns the actor, the character, and this one just says, okay, remember this position. Okay, I was going to talk about that later, but I've just talked about it now, so. Screen, shows what screen we're on. We're on the title. That'll change to game once you choose a thing, or it might be lose a life, game over, and that's all of the screens. So that's what those can be. Screen input weight. So that's if you press a button to change screen, and then it's also checking in the next screen. If you pressed a button, it just waits a bit before it actually allows you to press that. So you're not having double inputs. It's just a thing. Fades. I'll talk about this later with when I'm talking about the fill patterns. Just initialization stuff. We do all of the stuff. This is obviously the first function that Pico-8 runs. We set the screen, input weight, what the fading is going to be. That's because a lot of the stuff in this game has crossfades. So, well, not crossfades, but fade in, fade out, and yeah, I'll talk about that later. So we spawn the actors. This is going over the map and seeing which tile is where, and saying, okay, if this tile is this, then make this kind of actor. If this tile is this, do blah 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 blah. And then we initialize the actors and say, okay, you've got to set up all your initial values. And we're saying it's a new game. So, like, the reason that this isn't part of the spawning stuff is because everything in here happens several times. We only want to spawn the characters once, but we might want to initialize them several times. If the characters had a game over, we want to reset everything, put, checkpoints back where they were, put coins back where they were, objects, laser settings, which animation they're on. You don't want them all getting wonky. And we pass whether it's a new game or not, because stuff gets initialized differently depending on whether you're just respawning or whether you're starting a brand new game. Oh, okay, and then we've got functions for dying, starting a new game, which it sets the health, how many lives you've got, depending on difficulty. If it's easy mode, you get 99 lives. If it's hard mode, you get 0. That it escalates quickly. Or de-escalates quickly, I don't know. Little function there, just set the map. So it's this tab is just kind of general game-wide setting up stuff. First tab is where we set up our actors lists. Now I've got separate lists for each row of the screen. So like here we are. So this would count as a row here, like horizontally, then another one horizontally, and so each one, you're only ever on one row at a time, so it's a lot faster. If I just, if I'm going through a list of every actor in the game, it's really slow. But if I'm going through only like a quarter of the actors in the game, it runs a lot faster. It's an optimization thing. So we've got all of the actors and also the colliders, which is a similar list, but it's just a bit smaller because the player doesn't need to collide with everything. It's faster to check smaller lists. Actors, they're just objects. So we say add an actor of type at position with it's got a difficulty flag as well. You know, because some actors spawn or don't spawn based on whatever the difficulty setting is. So yeah, I can just like give you a little point of that. If I show you the normal, this is what the start looks like normally. And if I set it difficulty to easy, you can see we get an extra little checkpoint flag, just to show that there's extra checkpoints and stuff in this mode. Whereas if I switch the difficulty to impossible, then obviously we've got extra wall spikes, extra goals to avoid, which is a pain in the ass, and it's a lot more hostile. But yeah, so different stuff can spawn depending on what difficulty is, and in the map this is just as you can see, there's this wavy flag, that's an easy checkpoint, whereas this down flag, that's a normal checkpoint. And these wall spikes, it's a different frame of the wall spike animation if I want them always there, and it's that frame if I want them there only in the hard mode. So so that's how I'm doing that. So this is the add actor. It's called every time it finds an item that it wants to spawn a new actor. We search the entire map and check that tile. We see what the tile is, and we can say, like, if the tile is sprite 1, then that's a player. If it's type 2, then it's where we start for the zone 2. The jumpy character, that guy. 17 is a coin, 21 is a coin, but only for the hard mode. And it goes up through all of this, setting the various things. Then it adds the actor, based on what we've decided from what we've looked at. It adds it to the appropriate actors list so that the game can check where it is. So that when we're on a certain level, the game can just have a list of all of the actors that are on that level. There's the thing. Okay, collision 2, just mark stuff as non-collidable and make a list of colliders. This is the initialization stuff. It just goes through every list and says initialize this actor, initialize this actor. And yeah, every actor has forces, although I think only the player uses those, whether it's active or not, a frame, a position, whether we flip the sprite horizontally or vertically, its outline type. I'll talk about outlines in a bit. Yeah, anyway, this was supposed to be a quick overview of the thing. Anyway, each type of thing has a specific rules. So a checkpoint will be, it'll have an animation, the flag down, which is a deactive checkpoint, and if it's hard mode, we disable it. It's just yeah, there's no checkpoints in hard mode. So it's just setting stuff up based on what it is. What do we have to? This is where I've got my updates. Don't actually use delta 30. Time delta. I use 60 frames per second for the game, and I use a time delta so that if I did switch it to 30 frames per second, which is the default, I can switch that to there, and everything runs at the same speed. It just doesn't draw, at the same speed, It'll feel the same, but just not look as crisp. That's kind of an emergency thing. Like if it was impossible for me to get the game to keep running at this nice smooth 60 frames a second, oh, that's so nice. Then I can just say nope, and then change the time delta, and all of the speeds and stuff would be the same. Because if the update suddenly changes to half as many updates or twice as many, all of your maths needs to adapt. If you're moving left every frame, you need to be moving the same amount. Anyway, yeah. Updates here, so it's you know, I increment various stuff like game time, the input weights, menu inputs. You know, it's your basic game logic. The score mechanics are in here. So you know, the score eats into the health points. So we calculate what the max health point possible is, based on what our current score is, and if the HP is over, you know, all of that stuff. If we're dead, then we transition out. I'll talk about fades in a bit. And you know, then we decide if we're showing the lose life screen or the game over screen. Player update. Player update is the big one. Player update is where most of the game actually happens, and that's got a whole tab to itself. I've got sin and cause of time buffered for some reason. I'm sure I use those somewhere. Let's see if I use those somewhere, if they're unnecessary. Oh no, they're actually used. Okay. Let's just go back to the start. There we go. Okay, and then we just go through all the actors lists and update them. This should be, you know, checking if we're on level 1, then do this. If we're on level 2, then do that. But I'm guessing that most actors, they don't have a lot to do when they update. They're not very clever, and all of the pathfinding or the laser raycasting stuff, that's all pre-cached during the initialization. So this is pretty lightweight, and I can kind of get away with just doing it all at once, even for actors that we're not on the current level of. So yeah, this is actor action. So this happens for every actor, every frame. We don't worry about it if it's not active or if we can't see it. You know, the heart bobs, lasers animate and emit lasers on certain frames. It's all of the actors updating apart from the player. They don't really do much. The death balls, you know, they've got a basic kind of AI. If you know, it's either an attack or patrol state. A dot mode, yeah. So A is usually an actor in this, or an index of an actor in. So yeah, you know, if the mode is patrol, then do patrol-y stuff. If it's attack, then do attacky stuff. And it's got a minimum and maximum position that it can travel, and you know, it's pretty simple stuff. Drawing. I should have probably split this into a couple of tabs, to be honest. There's quite a bit to it, but for the most part, it's you know, just general drawing. It goes through the actors lists. There's the game over screens here, and you know, all of the drawing basically is here. I think the menu system I put somewhere else, and also the vector animation gets a tab to itself, and I'll talk about those on their own later. Yeah, so it goes through all of the actors. Once we're past the, like, we're still on the menu stuff. Okay, the game's like down here somewhere. This is just debug output for the CPU, because it was really important. I was pushing the Pico-8 processor pretty hard for this game. It took a while to get it well. Gradients, yeah, gradients. I'll be talking about that later. Screen fades, drawing the game. But yeah, like the quick overview, and rather than going into this really messy code that's so messy, is that it goes through whichever screen we're on. You know, I mean, it calculates the screen that we're on based on the player's position. For whatever screen we're on, then just draw any actors that are within the screen space, and we also make sure to animate them as well. Next, okay, what's in this tab? Yeah, this is general helper functions. So we've got things like button inputs, and I'm going to talk about the jumping inputs later, because that's a cool topic. Yeah, just helper functions. We got some collision stuff here. Distance, you know, between 2 points, can be useful. You know, just helpful functions. Like I seem to have one of these in every Pico-8 game, a floor 8. Outline print. Yeah, I'll talk about that stuff in a minute. Okay, player 5. This is the player update. You remember when I said that what happens with the player actor every frame is big and it requires a whole line of code, a whole page of code. This is where it is. This is where it goes. You know, it'll we do the movement inputs, player forces, player collision. When we get hurt, what happens? Are we dead? Which animation are we going to play? Okay, that's actually the extent of it. There's not too much to it really, but all of the stuff that you do in the game, that's basically in this tab. Everything else is just how the game interacts with what you do, I guess. This is the title screen. We've got what's on the scroll at the bottom, the wavy text, which I was really happy to get that working. I've never done that in a game before, but like ever since I've played all the Amiga games that had this wavy text, and I wanted to put it in a game, so I've done it now. Yeah, and I've got the menu drawing here, which is it just goes through the menu lists that were initialized here, up here somewhere. Yeah, here, and writes that one to the screen, then it writes the next one, and draws a little background behind whichever one's selected. And then we have in the last screen the vector drawing stuff, which is what's drawing the coins behind the menu there. And I'll talk about that in a bit. So that's kind of the game overview. Like all of that stuff comes together and it makes this. I'm gonna just take this off. I'm getting bothered by that. Don't want to put this on the floor. Ben's freaked me out too much with that. Okay. So, what's next on my list? Like that was just 1 point core systems overview. Like I'll just cover that, just like say what each tab is quickly. I can't say stuff quickly. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, the next thing is the jump and wall jump changes, which is a fun topic, because I get to talk about game design stuff and game feel. So before the jumping on wall jumping, start with the wall jumping because that's the thing that most people complained about, is you had to be pushing against a wall to jump, and obviously if you're pushing into the wall and you're trying to jump the opposite direction, then you've got to do this awkward kind of switch. So now you only need to be kind of adjacent to a wall and you can jump off it, or you can pull away from the wall for like a few frames and still be able to jump. If you were pushing against a wall recently, then you can jump. Then it still counts as a wall jump, even though it's kind of just jumping off the air a little bit. Don't know if you can see it there, but it's like it's a subtle thing, but it does feel good. I can press right and then jump a few frames later, and it works. Yes. What else have I got? Wall and wall adjacent jumps. Okay, yeah, non-repeating jump input. So I can press jump and not release it, and we stay held on the ground until I press it again. And normally in Pico-8, if you were using like the button P function, the button press, it would go once and then wait, and then it's like like a keyboard button press input. It repeats a few frames, so it'll say like, okay, it's on for a frame, then off, and then it's on off on off on off on off. Like when you're typing, you press a button and it'll type one letter, and then it'll wait a bit, and then it'll just keep typing the letter until you release. So I've made a function that changes that, and I'll talk about that once I've mentioned the next point, which is pre-jump input. So if you press the jump button just before you actually land, it'll still allow you to jump once you land. So rather than checking if the button has been pressed now, it also checks if the button's been pressed recently, and then it can count as a jump. And that is all. I think it was this tab. we'll see. Yeah, button jump is easy enough. I just want to know if the button's been held. Whereas this is the function. I want to know if a button has been pressed and if if we're allowing it. So we've got a bool to check whether it has been released since we pressed it, and we've also got a little timer, jump time, that increments, and that's used for the pre-jump input. So if you press it, it'll it will be not released, so we won't be allowed to return true normally as a press. But if it has been pressed recently, then it will allow it. If it's been pressed less than 0.2 of a second ago, then yeah, you pressed jump recently enough. We can tell that you were close to the ground, you wanted to jump, you can jump. So it's it sounds kind of complicated, but the main gist of it is it feels a lot better than just only jumping when you're actually grounded and press jump when you're grounded. Because otherwise you can press jump when you think you're grounded and it doesn't jump and you're just like, why didn't it jump? What's going on? So it allows you to be just that bit more careful. And I will talk about as I mentioned, you can pull away from the wall for a few frames and still be able to jump. Now, a lot of games have kind of a free air time where you walk off a ledge and then you can jump, even though you've left the ledge, just for a short time. This game does not do that because the ledge collision is so friendly. I mean, look at that. You've got all of this extra time where you're still technically on the ledge. So I didn't decide to add that. I considered it, but when you've got collision that's just that kind to a player, then it's not really necessary. They've got those frames beyond the edge of the ledge where they can still press jump anyway, so I still mess it up sometimes. Okay, yeah, so that's jumping. Outline tricks. Oh yeah, okay, in case you've not noticed, most everything in the game, at least the actors, have an outline. Now, what's interesting about this, I'll just jump just so you can see. The player has a full outline both above and below. But if I show you this, this is the exact sprite that we froze it on there. There's no actual room for an outline there. The sprites in Pico-8 are 8x8, unless you're doing some degree pokery, but generally 8x8 sprites. Whereas this is essentially a 10x10 because there's 1 pixel each side for the outline. So outlines are something that I've kind of had to hack together for some things. I'll talk about it later, but I'll talk about the general outline approach. Control F, Osprey. Yeah. Nope, that's a call to it. Okay, here we go. So the Osprite, which is basically my version of a sprite function. The sprite. Yeah, that's the usual function that you use. It's got the normal inputs, the sprite number, X, Y, size, whether it's flipped, but it also has an outline color. So the approach is pretty obvious. The C is the outline color, and the last value is an outline type. Some things don't have an outline, some do. So I use the same function to draw both and let it kind of figure itself out. And some things are no outline. Oh yeah, I've written it here. So outline types, no outline, full outline, no bottom outline, no top outline, or no horizontal outlines, and different sprites use this for various ways. But the basic gist of the thing is we set every color's palette to be 1. So whatever we draw, I can show you the palette function. Yeah, the palette just sets every color to be the same as whatever we're passing through, which is normally just pitch black for a solid outline. And then we just draw the sprite above, below, to the sides, and then we draw the sprite normally in the middle of that, and you get yourself a nice little outline. But that is hecka slow. that is really slow, because it's drawing the same sprite 5 times, so it's 5 times slower than normally. So that's why wherever I can, I set the outline to 0, which is no outline, and you know, just draw the outline inside the thing. This one has no horizontal outline. No, it has no outline, and yeah, just draw the outline inside the thing. I mean, sometimes I have to get creative, like the little sparks near lasers. They don't look good with a black outline, so you know, this lets me mix them up just a bit more. But yeah, so basically any of these with a pink background are sprites that don't have the outline drawn in real time, because you know, there's so many of them and it's slow. But also the sprites kind of you can fit the outline inside the 8x8 sprite, so it's good. So it saves us, you know, drawing a whole bunch of pixels. Whereas, you know, some of these basically any sprite that touches the borders and I can't draw an outline around it. I mean, that one doesn't, but parts of its animation do. So yeah, these they need to have their own outline drawn. Same with the flag. Really making use of the sprite space to get that wave effect in. So yeah, that's basically my outline trick. Oh, and there's text too. As you can see, the text has outlines also. That's basically the same thing. You just set the color, you know, set a background color and draw above, draw below, draw left, draw right, and then draw the text. Also, I don't know if you can see from here, and I can't bring up a cursor over this. But if you look in like the game title or the ultimate or the currently selected menu item, you'll see like, you know, 1 strips of color, and you know, that's not something that Pico-8 does normally. But if you draw the text once and then set a mask with the clip region, like there's a clip function in Pico-8, you can just, you know, draw the same thing again, but it'll only draw inside the clipped space. So if you draw the text again with a different color, you get those little highlights. So that's that. Next thing, difficulty settings and reusing map space. I've kind of already talked about that, really, of how I've used different sprites to spawn different things, and yeah, and things work on a different flag. I will point out where are we at? There we go. This part is kind of key. You know, it's you know, the game is designed so that a character can cross from one screen to the next. So all I need to do to enable ultimate mode is just check for these sprites and swap them to, I think I swapped them to this one. Yeah, this one, which is not collidable. This one is collidable. This one not collidable. And yeah, so the game just checks when it spawns a new game, should we toggle them to this tile or the other tile. So, you know, that's the only difference there. I've mentioned already that, you know, we spawn the player based on that position or that position based on what difficulty we're using, and yeah, otherwise it's you know, it's all there. I've already talked about it. What else have we got? Oh, fill patterns. Yes. So fill patterns are they're used everywhere on the screen. I'm like, well, as you can see, like just the entire screen. Basically, anywhere you see any of the dithering, or like if I just start the game, you'll see the screen, you know, snap to black, and then it's going to fade in. Yeah, just like that. And if I die, this is going to be awkward. Sorry, I don't have to hear this. I've taken the headphones off, but you have to hear this. But when it dies, it will fade out. Yeah, there we go. That is by drawing to the screen using, you know, just a regular rectangular fill, but setting Pico-8's fill pattern to there we go, one of these. So if we're this is I can draw this out for you. It's 0b, that just kind of says you it's a bit value. Next up we say, you know, what pattern it is. So normally it's I'm doing something like this. There's yeah, there's 8, and so as you can see, that's basically kind of a dither between 1s and 0s. So wherever it's 1, it will fill one colour, wherever it's 0, it'll fill another colour. And the 0.1 just indicates that this is a transparent fade. So wherever it's 1, it will be transparent. And yeah, fades are just that. We set the fill pattern to be something in the fade by however much, you know, we say fade it this much, and it'll pick, okay, fade it 3, then it'll go 1, 2, 3, and it'll have, you know, a couple of solid pixels, but most of them will be transparent. Unless we go further, then most of it will be transparent, and then a couple of solid pixels. And you know, that's kind of how that's working. That's how the fades are working. And I do the same thing for, if you see behind the currently selected item, there's kind of a pulsing black bar. I just, you know, I've got it's a regular rectangular fill, but it's setting the fade amount using sin and time, and just going between different fade values. Same with gradients on the left and the right. Don't know how well you can make it out because the background colour is the same. But if you see at the top near the title, it goes from purple all the way to black. Purple is the fill colour and black is just what's behind it. And so like from one side it'll go really faded, a little bit faded, a little bit. And that's basically just how I'm doing gradients in this. Yeah. And for the background, I'll talk about the vector stuff in a little bit. But basically, I've explained how fill patterns work. Really, I think I've done pretty well explaining how fill patterns work. This is my first game using them. They're relatively recent as an actual feature of Pico-8, although people have been hacking their own ones in for quite a while now. I say hacking in as though it's a bad thing. It's been really cool seeing all of the stuff people have done with them, and I'm just glad that now I can use them easily. So, next. Outline tricks, clip text, difficulty settings, fill patterns, vectors. Oh hey, you know, when I said just now I'll talk about vectors later, I'll talk about vectors now. So, the vector tools. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna just change directory here, and I think this is right. Yeah. Okay, so that's the coin art that I'm using. So Pico-8 doesn't normally, you know, it doesn't have any built-in support for the vector images. You've got to kind of code that yourself. And I pulled some code and also used an editing tool. Actually, I've got it up on my screen so that you can see. It's this. This is a vector animation tool by Gabriel Crowe. I always suck with name pronunciations. But anyway, you can you know, make vector art here, set colors. It's horizontal dither here, and but obviously I'm using crosshatch dither. But you know, like I'll talk about my changes anyway. So it's got, you know, you can position stuff, you can add points. Whoops. Remove points. It add layers. That add extra frames, and you can do whatever it is you need to do, and generate like a vector animation and export it. This is, you know, you just paste this into Pico-8 along with you know, something like this. This is the code. I've modified this fairly heavily, reasonably heavily. I've changed the triangle drawing so it's faster, and obviously the dithering is let's just go back. You know, this let's just escape. Yeah, you can see it's not horizontal stripes. That was because the vector drawing code was before Pico-8 had built-in fill pattern functionality. Now you can draw fancy patterns, and there is no extra overhead. So when you're drawing, you know, line by line, you can actually do fancy dithering, and it runs really quickly. And so yeah, that code, which was really useful, and the editor which I used to draw this spinning coin, really useful. But I did need things like obviously rotating. This is something that it didn't support until now, and I also, not in this version, but I could go back to the actual game. Yeah, there we go. Load. Curse of Greed Ultimate 1. There we go. If I turn on label making, this is a setting that I changed so that I can just generate the game's label image. You know, is it's drawing. Is it running slowly because it doesn't need to run fast. As if you're look, I'm also drawing shadows, which they should cast on top of the other coins. Let's see if we can get a frame where you can actually see it. Oh, the title's in the way now. Okay. Bye. Okay, so if you see the two coins just beneath the title there, one of them's kind of casting a shadow on the other, and it's got transparent shadows. So that's an option that I've added for this game. But for the most part, yeah, the vector animation, drawing, all of that stuff, it really wouldn't be possible without what Gabriel Crowe has done. So yeah, it's really good, and obviously I just disable that so that the game can run at a reasonable frame rate. There's no shadows. I would like the background menu to look like that, but I can't do that at 60 frames a second, so it's no good. I mean, to be honest, I'd be happy with it at 30, but you can't have like just the menu screen at 30 and then the game at 60, and not have the inputs feel weird and kind of stunted when you're on the menu. What's next? Vector stuff, camera stuff. Oh, yeah, I've already talked about the camera stuff. I did that during the overview. Next thing on my list, a playthrough. So I'm gonna play through the game now, I guess. I should have sound. Like I need sound for feedback. You know when I'm bumping my head and stuff. Yeah, this is still working. Okay, so I want to play through all of it, but I don't know. You get one life in Impossible Mode, and I've not actually beaten Impossible Mode with Ultimate on this keyboard. I've done done it on my Mac, which has got a way more responsive keyboard, and this one, whatever. Let's see how we go. I'm not going for a perfect run. This is just to kind of indicate that. Okay, you know what? Like if you just start out badly, it's okay to just restart. Oh, I did only a Zone 1 playthrough. It needs to be an Ultimate playthrough, doesn't it? Okay. Okay, whatever. Okay, so that's too soon. No, it wasn't. Ah. There we go. Just things like that. There's a lot of really cruel timing and positioning that I've done with the level layouts. So part of the reason that I'm doing this playthrough is just to show that some of these things that are, really unfair are also, super possible. Even though, like, I'll mess up some of those, you can at least see, it's not impossible. I'm close to nailing. Not played this game today, so yeah, that was good. That was good. I was happy with that. Give it another blast of the laser so it's got distance. Oh no! I bumped my head. I bumped my head. Oh, I'm fucked. Okay. We're okay. We're okay. Just gotta kind of be a bit more careful. And another blast, and not bumping my head this time. There we go. Okay. So I'm losing I've lost like a third of my health from just one level. I'm not going to make it to the end at this rate. But we'll see. Oh, that was good. That was good. Normally I mess that up. But yeah, as you can see, ridiculously cruel level design, which is, you know, one of the things I like doing sometimes. Ah, but still possible. You know, all of this stuff, like, I've managed to test every section individually to make sure that it is possible to go through without, you know, ever getting hurt or ever collecting any gold. It's all possible. Ah, frick. I might have to, risk going for the health in the next level, if, you know, assuming I survive that long. Although the trickiest part in the run is probably this part. I mean, I can, like, you see the little ledge just above me? I can jump onto that, get some gold, and then kind of wall jump on top of the thing. But there is a way to do it without getting any gold. And I am going to go for that, even though it's not a good idea. Ah, frick. Not a good idea. Nope. Okay. I've got some gold, but... Oh, okay. We're not doing it. We're not going to do that. It's just too risky right now. But the point is, you can see that there is a route there, right? It's not impossible. I should have practiced some more. I should have made this a separate video. Oh, give me half gold. Ah, frick, frick, frick! Oh, it's so bad. Oh, yeah. Nailed it. Okay. So that's how that works. You know, you beat zone 1 and then you move on to the next zone. That's how Ultimate is. Yeah, okay, cool. I am gonna go for the health there. Just, no, shit. Oh, fuck, fuck. That's the last health point. Health pickup? Yeah, health pickup. Okay, worth it. Like, even though, like, I'm very, very, close to turning into a golden statue, at least I can take one hit right now before dying. Oh! Okay, it didn't matter anyway. Now I'm still one hit away from death. Okay. This is getting, oh, this is getting risky. I am so gonna get statuified or turning, or just getting killed. This is, why did I think this was a good idea to do? Who made this game? It's unfair. Okay, I'm gonna wait till it bounces back and then jump up and over it. Oh. No, that was bad. Yeah, okay, okay. Same plan, not bumping into the ceiling this time. There we go. That gives me my maximum space. Same for this. No, bumped head. Okay, try that again. Bumped head again. Holy shit. Oh, gotta be careful here. One fuck up and I'm done for. Oh, I didn't hold the jump button long enough. I didn't get the height I needed. Anyway, that's the game. I'm not gonna try and get further than that. I don't think I'll do any better than that this morning. So yeah, that's Curse of Greed Ultimate. It is available to patrons now, link below, available to everyone else later, although the Loot and Dare version is available now. So, also, link below. Yeah, I think that's basically everything that I have to say about the game for now, but if you've got any questions, just, you know, hit me up on Twitter and I'll answer as best I can. Let's just stop the video.